Hi, I'm Adam,
This is Kevin.
and we are Tech Guys Who Invest. This is the place for business people and investors to learn all about investing. We offer a fresh perspective on what it's like to have a day job while investing, and we share lessons learned on our investing journey. Our vision is to educate and entertain you while adding tons of value to your daily commute. Welcome to our show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast, where each week we provide you with tips, tricks, strategies, and knowledge on how to invest wisely and safely. Adam and I are real estate investors, and we invest for cash flow. We want to generate enough passive income that will provide us with financial freedom. That way we will have the option to decide whether or not we want to continue working or to do whatever it is we want, because that money is coming in regardless. That is the power of passive income. Well, in this episode, we talk about the perspective of passive income, ways to look at it, ways that you can view it in a certain strategy that will help you acquire an asset to give you a sense of direction. So without further ado, here is our perspective on passive income.
One thing that I was thinking about yesterday is what to do with your passive income once you start generating passive income. So you spend a lot of time thinking about how to get started investing and taking steps to get started. And then once you actually buy your first asset and you start getting passive income rolling in, what should you do with that money?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And I think that it can go in a number of ways, but I think it also boils down to your goals, what it is you are looking to do with the passive income. If you are looking to build and build upon it, then you can leverage that passive income to, let's say, use it to pay towards a monthly subscription to a marketing thing like ClickFunnels, right? Or it's to help you with your email marketing. That whatever that passive income is from that asset can help pay for that. So you can then now use that to scale, or you can use it to save for whatever it is you want, because that passive income is going to come in regardless. That's why I was saying it could go a number of ways, but it depends on you as the investor. For me, with the passive income, it's all about those systems, because I want to make the acquisition of a new asset, if I wanted it, just passive as it can get, right? You're going to have to make decisions. You have team members in place, maybe make some phone calls, but at the end of the day, once the systems are in place, there's really nothing that you won't be able to acquire.
Yeah, I agree. I like that the idea of taking it and putting it back into your business. That's definitely one of the things you can do if your goal is to increase your business or increase your wealth. And that's what I'm doing. I'm putting it back into my business in different ways, so that investment will continue to grow and compound. Another thing you could do if your goals were different, say you were at a different stage in life, maybe further along, maybe you're not that far from retirement and you're investing in real estate, so you'll have a much more secure, comfortable retirement than relying on stocks and 401k and retirement account funds. You might use the money. You might use those streams to pay for things like living expenses. And that's
Absolutely.
how you plan to do retirement, is just by living off of the streams. I think that's another good usage of it as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm also thinking that with that, let's say you could budget out, you create a budget for a vacation or something, and you realize it's X number of dollars per month. Well, you could allocate that passive income to pay for something like that. So I think that, like I said, it really depends on what it is that you want to do. So now I want to ask you, what are you doing with your passive income? If it's not too personal.
I'm doing that. I'm using it right now to continue to grow and be able to buy more assets and generate more passive income. That's what I'm using it for. And that's because I'm in a growth stage. So at some point I will level off, because I'll feel like I have enough of the income streams to be able to pay for my living expenses, to to comfortably sustain me for the rest of my life. And then I'll use it to just pay for expenses, like, fun stuff too, like traveling. And, if I want to buy a new toy, I could pay for that. And another thing I'm doing is kind of what you mentioned a minute ago. Judy and I are doing some looking forward to college for the girls, and we were talking about strategies for making sure that we can pay for their college. And one of them is to buy assets and use the cash flow from those assets to pay for college. So I'm looking at a couple of rental properties right now for that purpose. In fact, I'm gonna put a couple of offers in this weekend, on a couple of different rental properties, and see if I can grab one of those. And we're gonna name it after our girls, and even teach them how to help manage the asset. And it's essentially going to be theirs, and the cash flow that throws off will be paying for their college. So we'll do that for each of them.
I love that idea. Instead of having to, let's say, go into debt for it, at that same time, you're not only paying for it through the asset, you are educating them, which is arguably even better than just giving them the asset. They now know, hey, if I wanted to acquire something, I have the skill sets to do so because I was taught, or it may be something completely different because the skills are transferable if you're investing and trying to build a business.
Yeah, exactly. And then one day I would even like them to take it. After they get through it all, I would like them to take over that little business, the asset. I see each little rental property as its own business. So it'd be cool if they then took that over, and that just becomes one of their portfolio.
Yeah. One thing that's important to think about is you mentioned it earlier and it just jogged my memory. When you're about to purchase an asset or you're in search for an asset, thinking about what that asset is going to do for you. So having that in mind already. And it may be, for me, I think that helps because I break financial freedom down into the passive income that's going to pay for the lifestyle that I have. So what are my current expenses? I want an asset that's going to cover this particular expense. That way, it's no longer there, basically. It becomes a moot point. So if I can continue to do that, then I know that you'll achieve financial freedom. So breaking it down what your expenses are and what type of an asset you need to cover that expense, I think is also a great way of visualizing the overall goal. And it helps break it down in such a way where it's like, oh, financial freedom is possible, just one expense at a time.
Yeah, and it changes the way you think about retirement. Retirement becomes something different because the traditional way, and the way I've always thought about it up until pretty recently, is you save enough to be able to have enough to spend for your older years when you're not working, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's really scary because so many things can happen where you don't have enough to get there, and then you still have to figure out how what you've saved is gonna last. um, but if you think about it in terms of assets and little mini streams of income paying for all of your expenses, then it's not even really a retirement thing anymore. Whatever you're doing is mostly optional, right? Because
Hmm.
it's covering all of your expenses. So there's not really a retirement anymore. It's more like life, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
choose to do this with my time. And if maybe I choose to do something that doesn't pay me for my time, well, that doesn't matter because that's already handled with my income streams.
I agree. So I was speaking to a guest on the Secondhand Succession, my own personal development podcast, and he was saying there's this weird definition of retirement where it's almost like you were talking about. You and I have this image where we work till whatever age and then kind of do nothing. But
Right.
you can change it and basically almost turn retirement into this different mindset where you're doing things because you love it and transitioning from working because you have to doing something you absolutely love. And passive income can absolutely help you do that. If you wanted to be a pastry chef, just off the top of my head, you could do that. You may be a terrible pastry chef, but if you absolutely love it and you have the passive income to support that lifestyle, then go for it. Bake all you want.
Yeah, it's cool because then you're not relying on on the financial component of that activity, you're doing it because you love it. It really doesn't even matter if you get paid or not, because that's handled.
So how do you approach an asset when you're looking at it? Do you think about, when you run the numbers, this is the potential passive income, or from your perspective, what are you looking at?
Yeah, that is what I'm looking at. Will it cash flow? What will it give me in cash flow every month? How much will it give me after all expenses, including debt service? That's how I'm looking at it right now.
So you're looking at a gross passive income and then a net, basically.
Yeah, I look at the net. I look at the
Absolutely.
net after all expenses, including debt service. And I know one day there won't be debt service on it any longer because you'll pay it off. But I'm not in a hurry to do that, because I think that's one of the big advantages of real estate is, using someone else's money to generate income. So the value of that asset continues to grow in terms of its equity. The debt service on it's an inflation hedge.
Yeah.
The people living in it are paying that off. So I'm not in a hurry to pay that off any sooner. At least that's my mindset right now at this stage of life. And then later in life, at some point, I may be incented to do that. I may decide, I'd rather have the additional cash flow than having the people paying down the debt service on it as an advantage. And then I could just take care of that.
Absolutely. Let's say the passive income's there and you wanted to increase relative that passive income. You could pay down the debt with your W-2. Like, that's also possible. There's so many strategies that you can apply. And that's an advantage of, like you said, with real estate, buying and holding. You just sit there and hold it, right? Let's say you have it for, I don't know, let's say you got a finance for 20 years. You pay down that mortgage, and you're not paying it down, by the way. Your renters are. So you have the renters paying it down for 20 years. And when that's gone, pretty much just infinite profits from there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I wouldn't pay it off faster. One of the reasons is because I could always do more with that money. So let's say I were to pay it off faster because I wanted the extra money. But the way I look at it is I could do better with just taking that extra money and grouping it with some other money and buying another asset. Meanwhile, like you said, the people renting it are paying that debt service down. And since debt service is so low right now, like the bank's giving you 30-year mortgages for so cheap, you can always beat that with an asset that will perform more than that percentage amount.
Right.
So like at this time, it just doesn't make sense to do that.
Exactly. Using that good debt in a way that will propel you forward. And that's all for notes. You can't, to my knowledge, use any debt service. You can't finance a note. That I understand. If somebody can correct me, that would be great. I'd love to learn more about that. But there's the idea of holding on to that note. If you come into a note with 20 years worth of payments, that's 240 months. You're getting a paycheck, assuming that the borrower continues to pay. So I love that idea, just sitting there and holding on to it. And that's important to ask yourself what it is that you want to do for an asset. So I know we're tying back into more than just the power of passive income, but investor identity, but they're all connected.
Yeah, it's all interrelated.
So for our listeners out there, if you have passive income, we'd love to know what's your thought behind it. What do you look to do with that passive income? Are you in the growth stage? Are you looking to just build a nest egg? What do you do with that passive income? We'd love to hear your thoughts and how you approach purchasing an asset. What's the thought process behind that? So shoot us an email, techguyswhoinvest@gmail.com. We'd love to hear it.
Also, we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn. If you are on LinkedIn, reach out to us on LinkedIn and connect with us.
And we'll put the link to the Tech Guys Who Invest LinkedIn page on our show notes.
That's it for this episode of Tech Guys Who Invest. This is Adam.
And this is Kevin. Thank you so much for listening to us. Don't forget to join our Facebook page where we're building a community of investors so that we can share ideas, tips, and other ways to help us get out of the rat race. If you found value in this podcast, it would mean the world to us if you could share it with your network. Lastly, we love feedback. It's how we get better. So if you wouldn't mind spending 30 seconds and leaving us an honest review on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever platform you're using, that would be super sweet. If you want to get on Adam or Kevin's calendar, go to tgwipodcast.com/contact. We want to help you invest safely, wisely, and ultimately get you out of the rat race. Thanks again.